Joining me live is Deputy Nationals leader Perin Davey. Perin, thanks for your time. We know life can be pretty tough on the land, but what are your thoughts about this campaign? Is the current government anti-farming?
Oh, look, I don't know whether they're anti-farming or they just don't understand what impact their policies have on farmers, on our regional productivity, on our regional landscape, because certainly the policies they're coming out with are going to have a massive impact on our regional areas. The banning of live sheep exports to the Middle East will be devastating, not just to the sheep industry, but to our international reputation as a safe and secure food trading partner. The ideological pursuit of connecting transmission lines at the expense of not only agricultural land, but also, koala habitats, national parks, but just to connect solar power, wind farms to the grid in the major cities at the expense of regional areas. That's another issue. And of course, as David said, the water reforms and the plan to come out with a massive checkbook and throw money at farmers to take water out of productivity will end up seeing increased prices at the supermarket shelves. And this is all going to add up, which is increasing the stress on our farming communities and increasing the cost of productivity at a time when we actually need to be encouraging productivity.
Yeah, I get your point. One of the major gripes of the Farmers Federation is worker shortages on farms and the supply chain, but there's record overseas migration at the moment. Wouldn't that be helping out people, on farms, because there are lots of people coming into the country looking for work?
Well, they're not coming in and going to the farms. That's the problem. There is record migration of people coming in, record numbers of international students, which is part of that figure. But we had an agricultural visa that we had introduced that would see people, bilateral agreements with countries to see people come in and go to the farms and do the work that is needed in the farming communities. That was scrapped by Labor. Labor have brought in changes to the Pacific Labour Mobility Scheme that we introduced, which is increasing the pressure and the red tape, and we're hearing that farmers are finding it more and more difficult, or accredited employers are finding it more and more difficult to do the red tape and to participate in that scheme. So now they're looking at walking away from that scheme and turning back to backpackers, which is a less secure form of employment. But we've got short-term employees. What we haven't addressed is the long-term issues of skills shortages in regional and agricultural industries.
You mentioned water buybacks, and this is a part of this campaign by the National Farmers Federation as well, as part of the Murray-Darling Basin plan as we head into what could be the next drought. We are fighting inflation and high grocery prices, as well as many as 3.7 million Australian households are estimated to be confronted with concerning levels of food insecurity. Balancing the environment and food production is not new, but particularly now, we probably don't want to be making things harder for farmers to grow food at the moment.
Well, definitely not. And you had the story about dairy factory workers at the start of this section, and dairy is one of the industries that is really vulnerable to water buybacks. The reality is, when farmers are finding it tough, when they've got their backs against the wall, when the banks are breathing down their necks, and then the government comes out with a massive checkbook, some farmers take the option to sell their water and get out of productivity, or transition to dryland farming, which is a completely different method of business. But you take too many dairy farmers out, and all of a sudden, all of those wonderful factory workers who have just won a pay rise, and good on them, but it means nothing if the factory closes because they can't keep the economies of scale up. We already know that milk production in Australia has fallen to record lows. You take any more milk out and we will start to lose our dairy processing plants. And then we're not talking about farmers anymore. We're talking about 150 dairy processing plant workers who are out of a job in a regional area. And I can tell you, they do not stick around. They move their families, they travel somewhere else, and they get another job because they're good and qualified people. But then that town, all those families leave that town. Suddenly the school says, we don't need 6 teachers anymore. We'll go down to 4 teachers. So you've got another 2 qualified people who leave a regional area, and it just snowballs. Buybacks are the most economically devastating form of water recovery, and we have learnt over the last 13 years of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan there are much smarter, much more efficient and much better ways to manage the water we hold, that the Commonwealth Environmental Water Holder holds, to manage that water through cooperation, through working with communities, through working with landholders to target water to wetlands and keep it there for longer. We're doing a great job on environmental outcomes, so let's actually focus on improving those environmental outcomes while keeping water in the productive pool so that our regional communities will be there to protect the environment, because it's those communities who do the pest and weed control. It's those farmers who manage the invasive animals like feral pigs. And without them, our environment will not get better. It will become strangled by blackberries and pigs, and you won't have any visitors coming to see our beautiful, gorgeous regions.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Perin, Davey, thanks so much.